Already introduced myself. Again, my name is Charlie Taylor. I'm the CEO of BitGrid. Thank you, judges, for allowing us to actually go into what we're doing instead of a 30-second, 40-second pitch on, hey, we can help people. So BitGrid is a cloud-based collaborative software for municipal utilities. So public power guys like if DC ran its own power company. So municipal utilities have to work together. It's inherent in their size. So some utilities are 10 members, 20 members, and most don't even have an engineer. They have a couple linemen and a couple teams that can address most of the issues, but given their technology now, they can't actually do anything without relying on each other. So it's obviously very important that they have a system that works. This system is the mutual aid system, which is organized by the American Public Power Association, which is their largest trade org. The mutual aid system is an absolute mess. Imagine trying to call 500 utilities, and I mean actually call. One person at APPA calls these 500 utilities and tries to line up crews to go get work. So when Hurricane Sandy hit, LIPA, which at the time was one of the largest public power providers, had 1,300 crews sent up to them from as far as Arkansas and Louisiana. That's 1,300 crews that had to be communicated with by calls, and recently their program has upgraded to a listserv. So this obviously does not work, and there's huge costs associated with the fact that this is disorganized, which is where BitGrid goes in. At BitGrid, we automate the entire process for communications. Before a storm comes in, we put all the utilities within a network on alert, which means they are not only ready to send the teams, they make sure their teams actually can go. But not only does it do that, we actually make sure that all those crews have hotels, have laundromats, have places to eat and places to get gas. That might seem like pretty obvious, but FEMA during Sandy got 1,300 beds for 1,300 crews that came to Long Island. Now, a crew has 2 to 4 guys. So what you ended up with is a lot of these guys sleeping in their trucks, which, besides the economic cost, is really not what you want for these guys to do in order to really fix the grid as fast as it possibly can. We also focus on building it purely for municipalities. Municipalities operate very differently than a traditional IOU. With the municipality, we're able to go right to the superintendent and explain, hey, if you use this system, this is what you'll save. It's a lot easier for us to get into market, and they also don't have existing systems that we have to compete with. We price based on a subscription model, starting at about $3,000 a month per utility, and that's for the smaller scale and just the mutual aid. The reason they're able to afford that, even though it sounds like a lot at $36,000 a year, is that just by saving a day of work time, meaning the crews got there a day earlier, they save hundreds of thousands of dollars. For example, the 1,300 crews that took 6 weeks in Sandy, the work probably could have been done in 4 weeks. Well, in 1 week, a single utility lineman cost about $8,000 on mutual aid. So that's a huge burn on the capital of a small municipal project who doesn't have profits built in and is very much for the people at cost. This scales up depending on size and depending on how much of the offering the utility wants. So in version 1, it will be a little lighter, version 2, more, and version 3 is our highest, which we'll get to in a bit. So in the US, there are over 2,000 public utilities. There are about 2,009 city-run utilities and about 850 cooperatives. These might not seem like a lot, but each one has revenues of from $500,000 to a few $1 billion. They're working together only with their trade organization to try and make this better, and don't have the systems in place to do this. And nobody is offering it. So one big thing to consider is a single solution provider. The guys who come into an IOU and sell them a service like an Oracle and get it done. Well, that costs a lot of money, and it's very difficult for these utilities to use. With version 3 at full market penetration, we can generate $250 million yearly revenue, and that's before we expand horizontally to both gas and water, something that the association has asked us to move forward with. So these are some select pipeline opportunities. Messina, New York is the guys we first met with up by Quebec. Very small utility, but with a huge mutual aid problem, already trying to organize this. APPA is the trade org we're working with, who sponsors a deed grant. The deed grant is up to $125,000 after a sponsoring utility. If we go to Rockville and NIAC, just 2 contracts, Freeport and Rockville, and get that deed grant, we're looking at $225,000 just from those 2 contracts, enough to keep us in the black until January 2017. Our roadmap is V1, which is send all the information. V2, get a basic GIS system, and V3, have a full GIS system that actually includes pictures. We have a team, including myself, my partner, from technical experts to doctorates, to former employees at APPA. Go there.
So, can we revisit the scale question, size of the market opportunity? I was a little confused.
Yep.
Go back one more slide. So you talked about version 3 being able to reach a $250 million market. Is that your market size or is that your revenue potential?
That would be our revenue potential. So what that includes is that the full system, which is a completely GIS automated with actual pictures through one of our partnering companies, mutual aid systems, inventory management, work management, that's the entire revenue that they would be paying.
So what's the total market opportunity here?
There are 2,009 public utilities, and their total, I guess their revenue is about $60 billion. Right now, they're spending more. It's kind of an awkward number because cities actually have to pick up the tab for when mutual aid goes over. So in Long Island, you look at Rockville Center, the city of Rockville actually has to pay over. So finding how much is a little more difficult.
What is the, what kind of potential do you see? You're obviously focusing on municipal power authorities right now. What potential do you see in some of the larger investor-owned, and why haven't you focused on that market?
Yeah, so actually we started doing that. My background, I actually worked for an investor-owned utility, and what we found is it's really hard to penetrate that market. We have one of our advisors who actually knows the CEOs of some of the largest IOUs, and it's still very difficult. What we found going to municipals is not only do we get in the market, they're interested and willing to buy, and they can actually make that decision right there. So in moving into bigger markets, a close friend of mine is general counsel at Georgia Power, and what he basically said is go to municipals, get all of MEAG, which is that organization in Atlanta. As soon as you have all of Georgia's municipals, the IOUs will inevitably have to start using your software as well. So that's really more our focus getting in there.
And how does that change your potential market size?
It would probably multiply it by about 5 or 6. Our revenue, obviously, we could charge a lot more for these guys, but they also have a lot more inherently. They charge significantly more per kilowatt hour, as well as for service fees.
There we go. Who is the buyer in the utility? What, I mean, is this the EH&S department?
Yeah, this is for these utilities, the superintendent is actually making this decision. So the superintendent can be an engineer at some of the larger utilities, but a lot of times it's just a senior lineman. These companies are really about 5 to 10. Some have a few hundred employees, so there's not actually departments. There's one guy who kind of oversees everything, and then everyone else.
Okay, and so then, as a follow-up question on the revenue side, you mentioned the case you're making someone is this is what you'll save by adopting this product?
So it's actually 2 sides. First, it gives them capabilities that they've never had. So most of these guys can't even afford to get a GIS system. We're automating that, so we're using the data points we have to pull them back in and create that system for them that they don't have. That allows them to save money in the time of mutual aid, so when there is an emergency, but it also allows them to more efficiently operate their workforce. So if they, in a normal day, if they need to send a lineman out to a pole, they can make sure that they can get there effectively.